I'm Dr. G, and I'm going to answer some of those common questions that people have about heart health. You know, as cardiologists, we're going to ask some key questions to get to the bottom line of what that discomfort is about. This is not intended to replace medical care, but if you have the kind of discomfort where you walk up a flight of steps and you notice you feel tightness or pressure in your chest or your neck or your arms and it goes away when you stop, that could be your heart. But when somebody says to me, gee, I feel a little sticking, pointing feeling and it lasts for a second and goes away, good chance that that is not your heart. It's very important to be able to distinguish what's coming from the heart, what's coming from the muscle, and what might be coming from the food pipe, which, by the way, sits right behind the heart. Heart disease has a lot of risk factors. Everybody knows the common ones. People always say, oh, smoking cigarettes, that's a bad one. If you're smoking, we need to figure out how we're going to get you to throw those cigarettes away. Second one, diabetes. Third one, for some people, it's the type of cholesterol that you have. What most people don't talk about is really what's the underlying cause of heart disease, right? Heart disease is an inflammatory disease. It's not a disease of cholesterol. So heart disease is caused by inflammation, oxidative stress, and immune response. This is where we get into a lot of our functional testing, where we start to look for things like sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is linked to cardiovascular disease. Food sensitivities, right? Heavy metals, don't forget, lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, all linked to vascular disease. Carrying too much weight in your midline causes inflammation. Is it that you simply aren't eating the right foods and don't have enough antioxidants and your glutathione is low? And for some people, it is immune function and immune reaction. Believe it or not, there are infections that cause cardiovascular disease. A perfect one is Bartonella. So it's not as simple as just cholesterol and diabetes and blood pressure and smoking. Those are important, very important, but we have a lot of other ones to think about as well. Well, normal blood pressure, 120/80. As a matter of fact, when you hit that 130 on the top, we start to say you're going into stage 1 hypertension or stage 1 high blood pressure. When you hit that 140, we're saying stage 2 high blood pressure. The way we do it here at the Pearl, slap on a 24-hour blood pressure cuff. That is the best way to do it. Why? Because it tells us your blood pressure when you're at home, when you're sleeping, when you're up and having fun, when you're exercising, so we can see the full spectrum over 24 hours. Now, a lot of people come in and say to me, I'm only having high blood pressure in the doctor's office. Now, that may be true, labile blood pressure. We can tease that out with the blood pressure monitor. What about masked hypertension? Come to the doctor and your blood pressure looks great, but then we get you up and exercising and all of a sudden we see your blood pressure go up. And then, of course, we have people who have high blood pressure all the time. And then we have people who have normal blood pressure. So 24-hour blood pressure monitor is really the best way to go. And what a lot of people don't realize is when you sleep at night and your body goes into its relaxed state, your blood pressure should dip. It should drop about 10%. We call that dipping, and we expect to see that. Dad died or my dad's brother died, so I guess I might as well just have the bacon and eggs, right? Because I'm going to get it. No, the answer to that is no. You are more than your genes, right? Cardiovascular disease is totally preventable. You know, a study was done called InterHeart. It was done in 52 countries, and it showed that 90% of first heart attack could be prevented just by changing one's lifestyle. Not smoking, walking, eating a Mediterranean diet, and so on. So you are more than your genes. The genes don't hold you hostage, but if you know you have genes that predispose you to heart disease, hopefully that motivates you to do something about it. Great news about this is between laboratory data and technology today, we can really know is something going on with you that's significant. What do I mean by that? Of course, we can do an advanced lipid panel. Get things like LDL particle number, ApoB, ApoA. Look for those markers for inflammation. But we also can look at some of your genetics. Do you have a gene that predisposes you to heart attack, like 9p21? Or the ApoE genetics, which, by the way, may also be linked to Alzheimer's disease. Or do you have genetics that are associated with high blood pressure, for example? So once we have your data and we know what's going on and we know that you don't have sleep apnea and we've checked all of your functional labs, meaning your microbiome, your nutrient levels, and so on, we may opt to do a test that's going to take a look at your coronary arteries. That's something called a CT angiogram, where you go in a CAT scanner with an IV in your arm, and we can actually do a test that allows us to see your arteries. And even right here at Pacific Pearl with ultrasound, we can use an ultrasound to look at the arteries to the brain, called the carotid arteries, the arteries to the leg, what we call the peripheral arteries. Look at the heart, look at the heart muscle. So we can get lots of information, and then we can determine what kind of risk is someone at.